Hello everyone! In today's video, we are going to make a really fun and easy block that looks really complicated, but it's not, and it's called birthday cake block. Now this block is part of a sampler quilt along by loriholt. Okay, I love her quilts. I have made all of them pretty much. This quilt is called Mercantile Sampler, and she has it on her blog, and you can go through there and find all of her quilts and all of her blocks, and she gives you instructions on there how to do them. But I'm just going to make a video for all of the blocks I'm making in this quilt. I love this quilt. After this quilt, we'll be doing the hometown quilt too. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to make that quilt also. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so these are some of the items you're going to need to make this quilt. You're going to need some fabric. You can use what you have in your stash. I bought the fat quarter bundle that Lori sells for the Mercantile, and I also bought the 10-inch squares. I'm using the 10-inch squares when I am making my backgrounds. How you'll put 4 blocks together for your background that your circle is going to be top stitched to. And then you're going to need background fabric, and I have a bolt of fabric that I bought that is going to be perfect for it. You're going to need to print off the sew along block guide. It has all of the cutting instructions for all 25 blocks in the quilt. Lori did a very good job on that. Okay, and then you're going to need a 12-inch circle. So what you're going to use that 12-inch circle for in this quilt is you're basically going to use that circle and the lines that are drawn on it to trace onto interfacing. Okay, so in this diagram, you are looking at the block layout for the birthday cake block. Okay, it gives you the measurements of the sashing and the labeling of the half square triangle. So these are the items I'm going to use to make my first block in this quilt. I took out the 3 fat quarters that are going to be used, and I pulled out 4 of my layer cake squares that I'm going to use for my 8-inch squares for my background. I'll need a rotary cutter. I'll need a small ruler to trim up my half square triangles. Of course, I'm going to need the pattern, the sew along block guide for the block. I'll need background fabric, and I will need a ruler for cutting those squares. Here are the measurements for each piece of fabric that you're going to cut for this block. And next to it is the code, the number coding from the manufacturer, and the name of the fabric that Lori uses in the Mercantile quilt. You do not have to use her fabrics. You can use any fabric you have or any colorway that you love. This is just to give you that information if you need it. Okay, I want to tell you something that I found out. I had followed these measurements and cutting instructions from the pattern. I noticed that I had 2 blocks too many. So on the A squares where it says to cut 3 at 4.5 inches for the background, we only need 2. And then on the D squares where it says to cut 3 at 4.5 inches square, the pink fabric, we only need 2 instead of 3. So I just wanted to let you know that as a heads up. You can still cut it like I did, but you'll have 2 extra 4.5-inch squares you didn't need. So in this picture, I have all of the pieced fabrics that we're going to sew together laid out. So you can see we have 4 red squares that are 3 inches that we're going to sew to 4 white background squares that are also 3 inches. Then we have our 4.5-inch blocks. They're laid out with their partner up and down of which they're going to go together for their half square triangles. And then we have our strips, that is our sashing. So the first thing we're going to do is make our 8 half square triangles. We have 3-inch squares we're going to put together, right sides together. You can draw a line from corner to corner and then sew a 1/4 of an inch on each side of that line. You should get 2 half square triangles for each set that you make, okay? Then we will trim those to 2 1/4 inches. So next we will be making our larger half square triangles. So I have them laid out here in this picture. You could see the white and the pink, the white and the green, and then the pink and the green fabrics. We'll put those face together, right sides together, draw a line from corner to corner and sew a 1/4 of an inch on each side of that line and make our half square triangles. So after you finish sewing on each side of your line, you'll cut your square from corner to corner and have your 2 half square triangles. Then you will trim each of those triangles to 4 inches. Okay, so now that we have all of our half square triangles trimmed, we are ready to go to the ironing board and press them open. All right, guys, so the next step is we are going to cut 4 8-inch squares for our background. I bought a layer cake in the Mercantile line that Lori has, and I just went through the stack and found the fabrics that she used, and I stacked them and cut them into 8-inch squares. I have it listed here how she has it on her pattern, what fabrics that she used, but you do not have to use those fabrics. You can use any fabrics you have. Use your own fabrics, use your stash, whatever you have, okay? So after you have cut your 4 8-inch squares for your background, I want you to sew them together like a giant 4-patch. So let's recap. We're going to start laying our block out on our design board. We have our red and background half square triangles that are trimmed to 2 1/4 inches. And then we have that one little background square up in the corner that is also 2 1/4 inches. We have our 4 larger half square triangles that we made, and we have trimmed these down to 4 inches. Now we're going to take our block to the sewing machine and we're going to sew it together. So first we will sew our 4 red half square triangles together. Then we'll sew our larger 4-inch half square triangles together. And then we will add the longer strip of red half square triangles with the 1 2 1/4 inch square. And then we will sew it all together. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, everyone, so as you can see, it's a really easy block to make. It looks really complicated, but it's really easy, and you can do this, okay? So if you would like to make this quilt, you can also go to the website beinmybonnetco.blogspot.com, and you can see all of Lori's beautiful quilts, and all of the instructions for all of her blocks are on her website. This is the Mercantile sampler quilt if you want to go ahead and make it also. But I will be making the blocks for this quilt and making videos for each of the blocks that I make. It's a free quilt along, so like and subscribe and join me as we make this beautiful quilt designed by loriholt. Well, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe to Grandma's channel. Like and subscribe to Grandma's channel.